The man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room.
All right, it is 8 minutes after 8. This is the Situation Room live on Spice FM, on KTN News and online. When you think home, do you think class, luxury, comfort? The Nawali Estate and Kingswood Homes Villas are for you from only 15.5 million shillings. Get to own an immaculately designed 3-bedroom plus DSQ villa located in Vipingo, Kilifi County, developed by Centum Real Estate. Within this beautiful estate, you have a swimming pool, lush green parks, secure and designated play areas, playgrounds for your children, reliable water for the development, 3 million litre desalination plant, a kilometre from the Vipingo airstrip, daily flights to and from Nairobi, walking distance from the Mombasa Malindi Highway, which is currently being expanded into dual carriageway. All those things are available. Now, if you'd like to get more details about this, please SMS the word Vipingo and send that to 22365. That's 22365. The word is Vipingo. Or you can call 0740 400 215. 0740 400 215. For as low as 245,000 shillings deposit, you can start your journey towards home ownership in Vipingo, Kilifi County. We have a guest in the studio. We'll be joined by another one as we continue talking about the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence and the progress that's been made in the country. But before we welcome our guest, let her hear the proverb from CT.
Yes, when you raise a leopard, you shouldn't be upset when it eats your goat.
When you raise a leopard, you shouldn't be upset when it eats your goat.
Our guest seems to be a good.
Oh, she has raised leopards and she knows.
She knows.
She has eaten her goats.
goats. She raised leopards, ended up only with leopards. The goats had been eaten.
But she was left with the sweet potato vines and all the other things that goats eat.
Yeah.
Those ones are not eaten by the leopard. Yeah. The guest is Winfred Okumu. She's the Deputy Executive Director at Africa Youth Trust. She is also the coordinator in the Access to Justice project, and she'll tell us more about this. Good morning, Winfred.
Good morning. How are you?
Very well, thank you. Welcome to Kenya's biggest conversation.
Thank you.
So how many leopards are those that you were rearing?
I'm not aware of any leopards.
And how did you get them? Is KWS aware? When you hear that proverb, what's your interpretation of that proverb?
My interpretation, I think I'll look at it in how parents raise their children.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, so parenting is key, especially when you are bringing up your children. So if you don't, there's this say that says that if you spare the rod and then
Spare the rod.
spoil the child.
Yes.
So if you don't raise your children well, then it means in future you'll really have a big problem. And now I'm trying to connect it also with the cases of rape cases that we have in the country. There's high prevalence rate in terms of rape cases and also defilement. Yeah.
Tell us about the organization that you work for, Africa Youth Trust.
So Africa Youth Trust is a youth-led organization that was established in the year 2005. And basically, it's a model whereby we are trying to bring youth on board when it comes to socio-economic and political space. So, because we've seen that for us to, in terms of development, we need to put youths on board. And we've seen that youths are very powerful key when it comes to development. So we want to direct that energy among the youths in Kenya, even in Africa, because we want to replicate all our activities in Africa. We are working in the Horn of Africa, southern part. We're also trying to penetrate in the southern part. And in Kenya, we're working in 12 counties. And one of our pillars, we have 5 pillars. One is youth and good governance. We have gender equality and economic empowerment. We have livelihood resilience. We have organization capacity and climate smart agriculture. So in women economic empowerment, gender equality and women economic empowerment, we have 3 projects that are currently running. We have access to justice, that is dealing with survivors of sexual and gender-based violence. Then we have young urban women and women economic empowerment. So basically, I'm here because of access to justice, being the fact we are celebrating 16 days of activism. So we implement access to justice in the informal sector of Nairobi, that is Mkuru, the entire Mkuru, and we get our support from ActionAid Kenya. And what we do is we are using an innovative mobile technology. It's called 21094. So 21094, we realized that most of the cases of sexual and gender-based violence were not being reported, either because of the past experiences when the survivors are reporting such cases. So we felt it was very comfortable for survivors to to report such cases using the 21094. You can just try it, 21094. You simply send the word help to 21094, and then from there we'll be receiving the cases. So as the person who is reporting the case, you'll receive a case number. Then from that case number, we are able now to follow up. So we have the system operators on board. So these system operators have been trained on how to respond to cases of sexual and gender-based violence. So they will get back to the case number, because the case number will come to us, case number and telephone number. So we are able to get back to you just to make inquiry. What are some of the support that you need from us? So from there, they're able to identify its cases related to gender-based violence. Then we are able now to pick it up, and we are able to work with our survivors to access legal, medical, and psychosocial support. So we are not working in silos. We are also working with police officers around our area of implementation, whereby these police officers, they've been trained on standard operating procedure in terms of gender prevention and response. Because initially we had issue with the police officers, especially in areas that we are implementing, because they are really causing more damage to the survivor. Because instead of supporting the survivor, they'll be asking, what were you doing? Because you find that some of these cases, they happen at odd hours. So they were asking, at that time, what were you doing? You see such kind of things. You are not supposed to justify the action. You are supposed to support the survivor. Because even if this survivor was, because right now people have got issues with the way women dress, you see. So they were like, oh, alikuwa amevaa nguo short ndio maana atalirepa. That is not the issue, because we are even asking ourselves, what about children who are being defiled as age of 3 months? They are being defiled. How can you justify that action? So we felt that it's good also to bring police officers on board, because that is the first place that our survivors normally report the cases. So we train them on how they're supposed to support these survivors in accessing justice. Then we are also working with the health sectors around our area, whereby we bring them on board. So we are able, in terms even of evidence preservation, they know what to do. We've also formed, it's called GBV Technical Working Group, whereby we bring all the stakeholders on board. After bringing them on board, we are able to pick one of the key issues that needs advocacy. Because we've realized that when it comes to access to justice for survivors of sexual and gender-based violence, the process takes it's a process that never ends. You find that maybe somebody started pursuing case even in 2014, the case is still in court. So we are trying to identify what are some of the issues that are really delaying that justice for survivors. And you find that when this delay comes, then in terms of even this person has not even, in terms of mental well-being, even if that case repeat itself, this person will not even feel comfortable reporting. So we are trying to identify what are some of the issues that come up. And then even in our project, we've established right now, this year, we have 181 survivors that have experienced sexual and gender-based violence. So we are trying also with our survivors to bring them on board. We are offering psychosocial support to these survivors. There is individual counseling based on the scenario. We also have group counseling for these women. And then from there, we've also trained them on economic empowerment, because one of the key issues that normally cause GBV, number one, is poverty. Most of them, they don't even have resources. So we are bringing them on board. We are training them on economic empowerment. We're even able to identify the economic pathways, the ones who wants to go back to school, the ones who wants to venture into business. Then we train them. So we are also linking with the government credit institution, like we have the Women Enterprise Fund, Uwezo Fund, Youth Enterprise Fund. Then they come on board. Then as AYT through ActionAid, we are able to give them seed capital. So this capital, we believe that is going to improve their economic livelihood, because once they have resources, then it will be very easy for them even to make decisions of even leaving that toxic relationship. Because you find majority of women do not leave this toxic relationship because maybe the perpetrator is the intimate partner who perpetuates the violence. You get it? So making decision becomes a challenge, because she'll be asking myself, where do I go?
So are we saying essentially that we're still having... So here we are saying that there are moves that are being made to end gender-based violence, right? But there are certain circumstances within which the victim cannot actually leave.
Yes.
So it continues. It is a continuous state of violence being meted upon. We know it's happening, but there's very little we can do to remove this individual from that situation. Is that what we're saying?
That's what we are saying, because when you look at the economic status, because majority, when you look at the percentage, we really have high prevalence rate of sexual and gender-based violence among women and girls, which is not being reported. And we look at the economic status of these women; they're not economically empowered.
Okay, so sorry.
Yes.
They are staying in this situation because of the economic aspect.
Yes.
This person who is the perpetrator is also the provider.
Exactly.
Okay. So now when we say we know who these women are, we know who these girls are, whatever the case, but there's very little are we saying that there's nothing we can do to remove this girl from this situation or remove this woman from this situation?
We can do something. Number one, we need to look at what actually causes gender-based violence. Number one, like the survivors that we are dealing with, majority of them, when you look at cases that happens to them, it's domestic violence.
Okay.
We have domestic violence, which is very high, and sometimes even removing this person from that place, because we are talking about power imbalance. This person has got power over the survivor because he's the key provider. So it becomes a challenge for this person to make the decision. But once they come to our counseling sessions, because we have a counselor, a professional counselor that really supports the survivors to make a formed opinion. So it's very easy for them now to move out, because right now we are able to identify what are some of the economic pathways. Maybe the ones who wants to venture, let's say we are talking about a child here. This child we are able to take her maybe to a safe place, and then we are also able to provide education. Then if it's a woman, we are able to bring her out, she attends the session, and then we also provide seed capital after attending training. We also bring the affirmative action government officers on board. So because the seed capital that we are giving, it's not that much. Through action, it's not enough. So we want to link them also with other government credit institution whereby they can access the funds. Because right now we have funds. I'm happy that we even have the Hustle Fund, whereby they can access such funds to improve their economic livelihood. Yes.
Okay. There's something I need to ask. You remove the victim from this environment in which they've been violated. You seek to understand why it is that this violence is the way it is. The violator, what do you do to the violator? What do you do for the violator? Because you remove this victim, some other person will fill that particular space. And if this violator is a serial violator, he will
continue.
Oh yes, by all means.
Jump on to the next one.
Yes, exactly. And since from what you've said, I get the impression that the numbers of these issues is on the increase, not on the decrease. So it means these examples of violations are being mirrored elsewhere. So clearly it's a problem, and a big one. From your understanding and from what you have done, what would you say is the common thread that runs through these acts of violence? What brings them about? What makes these people, why do they become perpetrators of this violence?
Okay, what I can say, number one, when you look at the legal frameworks that we have, number one, they are not supporting the survivors of sexual and gender-based violence. And if I can talk about the safe house right now, we don't have government safe house. The safe house that are there that are supposed to support survivors of sexual and gender-based violence, they are private sector. And this private sector, there is a duration that our survivors are supposed to stay there. Remember, these cases are very high, and therefore, they're supposed to be rescued from that perpetrator. Because if this survivor keeps on staying in that household where this perpetrator is, the end result is death. And we've seen even in the media. Most of the cases we've had a high prevalence rate of femicide in the country. So what we want, it's if we can have, right now we are really advocating for comprehensive shelter house. When I talk about comprehensive safe house, is whereby we have a safe house whereby we have the medical aspect, we have the legal aspect, we have the psychosocial aspect, and we have the economic empowerment aspect. So what am I talking about? I'm talking about whereby a survivor is being rescued from that hostile environment, being kept in a safe place whereby she's able to access legal aspect within under one shelter. Because when you look at scenario right now, you report to the police officer, you share the same experience that you underwent, the traumatic experience. You leave from the police station, you go to the hospital, you narrate the same story. It's like this person is reminding you the ordeal situation that you went through every time, and it's not comfortable expressing such experience. You leave the medical aspect, you go to the counselor, you are explaining the same. So you find some of the survivors will say, I am done. You people, you are not helping me, I am done. You go to the to court, you explain the same thing. So what we want, if the government can start implementing a safe house, whereby it is comprehensive, we have the legal aspect. Now, it's like the first contact person maybe might be a medical person. So your files move from one department to another. Then you are also safe in that room, and you are able also to go counseling aspect, the psychosocial support, and then from that they are able to, now if they want to reintegrate you back to the society, already you are going to be, if you can link now the affirmative action fund, a certain percentage can go to the safe house, whereby for those people who wants to venture into business, let's say you don't want to go into that toxic relationship, you are able to be given seed capital, and then you can even decide, I want to change my location. Maybe if you are staying in Nairobi, you can even decide you want to go to Mombasa. So you will be very safe. So those are some of the things that we are really struggling with. And then the other thing is the issue of gender-responsive public services. When I talk about gender-responsive public services, these are some of the services that it is the mandate of the government to ensure that its citizen has. When we are talking about water, because we've seen, people are even, there's what we call sex for water. Okay? The water is not there. So what will first, because water is a basic need. So if it's not there, these women are forced to walk long distance to fetch water. And in that process, something can happen, because majority of women wake up even at 3. So what happens at 3? And you find most of the people who goes to fetch water are young girls. So when they walk that odd time of the night, they might experience sexual and gender-based violence, because it is at night, and then after that they're supposed to be in school concentrating. Okay, so it means in terms of even quality education, they will not access quality education, because at that time in the morning they spend almost 3 hours fetching water. They are in class, they are sitting concentrating. Do you think their concentration level will be high? It will be very low, because already part of their energy was exhumed during the morning. Then the other thing that we are looking at is the issue of health, whereby these young girls, even women, can access health. Because right now when you look, we had universal health care. Is it working? And I understand that even Linda Mama has been removed. So you find that when Linda Mama has been removed, what happens to these women? Because if they cannot access funds to access basic health rights, so that means they can do anything. And actually the people who have got powers over them, they can really take advantage. So what we want, if we can have a comprehensive shelter house, whereby all the services are inclusive. Then another thing, if we can also introduce standard operating procedures for GBV prevention and response at the police training. Because one of the challenges that we are faced with is that you find that some of the police officers that we have trained, after some time they get transferred. When they get transferred, there are new people who don't even understand the issue of GBV prevention and response. So you also have to use again another resources to train these people to understand how to do what? To respond to such cases. Because number one, we are survivor-centered. Because I understand that I was asked about the perpetrator. Ours is survivor-centered. And we also have the laws whereby if you defile or you are the perpetrator, there is a law that has to be to be implemented. But you find that some of these things, even right now today, there is a match to the high judiciary, because there was this action whereby they were saying that for the perpetrator, they can be given community work to do. But remember, we are asking, what about the life of a survivor? This is somebody that she has been violated. She's traumatized. So if it doesn't work at her mental health, it means that we are not going to have a productive, productive country, because majority of women will be lag behind. Because once you've been traumatized, hata ukienda job, utafanya kazi. Hautafanya kazi, because you'll be like, your self-esteem will be low, and that's why you find that sometimes people are really deviating when you talk about sexual orientation. You don't understand the reason as to why somebody became a lesbian. You don't understand the reason as to why somebody became a gay. But when you look at deep inside, you start interrogating, you'll find maybe this person was abused at the childhood time. So we don't understand. We start judging. Oh, so Winfred is a tomboy, blah, blah, blah. So many things are happening.
You don't get to understand why. Winfred, there are very many things that you've said, and I think it would be important if we look at your program and the impact it has had, and also the information that you've collected from people who have actually used their SMS number 21094, right? So you told us that your partner is ActionAid,
Yes.
ActionAid Kenya. And joining us in the conversation is Majani Tyson, who is a learning and impact coordinator at ActionAid Kenya. Good morning, Majani.
Good morning.
Thank you very much for joining us for this conversation as well. Before we take a break, and then you'll tell us more about this particular program, tell us about ActionAid. What does ActionAid do, and how did you start working with the Africa Youth Trust?
Thank you for having me on the show. My name is Majani Tyson, working with ActionAid as a learning and impact coordinator. ActionAid is a global movement of people working together to defeat poverty and secure justice. And we focus more on working with women who are living in poverty and exclusion. And our work is more of securing the rights of women and ensuring that women and girls have a voice right from the family level to the community and at the national level. Currently, we are partnering with the Africa Youth Trust on the Young Urban Women Movement Program, a program that is keen to ensure that young people, especially women, have the right to bodily integrity, and they are securing decent work and economic empowerment, and they also have access to quality sexual and reproductive health rights. And we're happy for the work that Africa Youth Trust has been doing on those front lines. But as you've heard from Winnie, there is quite a lot that is yet to be achieved, and there is a lot of battles to be fought to ensure that we are securing the rights of women.
Okay, let's take a break. Then we'll talk more about what drove you to start working in Mukuru, for example. Why specifically Mukuru? And what kind of numbers are we talking about? How many people have used this number? When you dig deeper, what do you establish from the community? And then how you use that information then to influence, because you're really calling on policy shift and a lot of work that's been done. What kind of data do you have? It's 8:30. This is Kenya's biggest conversation, commemorating 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. And our guests this morning are right in those programs. Winfred Okumu is the Deputy Executive Director and Coordinator in the Access to Justice Project, Africa Youth Trust, and Majani Tyson, Learning and Impact Coordinator at ActionAid Kenya. Ndu, please tell the lady and gentlemen about Kiwi Black Shoe Polish and how buying Kiwi Black Shoe Polish can actually help in getting 35,000 worth of school fees.
So Step Up and Shine with Kiwi gives us an opportunity to do just that. And every now and then, Kiwi has been in the business of saying, let's see how we can support young learners around the country, right? So Step Up and Shine with Kiwi. You walk into any of your supermarkets and buy a tin of your black Kiwi polish, and under the lid is a code. You send that, you dial star 459 star 5 hash. You send that code and instantly you win some airtime or some bundles that you can use. I am testifying that it is true. I did it. And I was able to speak to Siti's cousin for some hours with my airtime. But then it doesn't end there. You then get an opportunity to enter into a draw. 36 different winners will win 35,000 shillings every week that goes towards school fees come January 23rd when kids go back to school. Step Up and Shine with Kiwi.
Brilliant, isn't it?
Is one.
Yes.
Very.
Know that the girls will be going to school next year.
Bas, you see? It's 28 minutes to 9. Time for a break. We'll be back shortly.
This is the Situation Room.